Hey class, this is section 1.3. Alright, in this section we're going to talk about linear equations. So for the first one, we need to find an equation of the line that satisfies the given conditions. They give us a slope and a point through which the line goes through. So we're going to use y equals mx plus b. So first thing we need to know is the slope, which is already given to us, so we can plug that in. Y equals 2/3 x plus b. Now we can substitute our x and our y coordinates and get what 8 equals 2/3 times 4 plus b. After multiplying, we get 8/3, and now the final step is to subtract 8/3 to both sides, and that gives us b equals 8 minus 8/3, which is, I'm going to do a little work on the side here, times 3, common denominator, that's 24, take away 8, which is 16/3. 16/3. So once we have our y-intercept and our slope, that's pretty much all we need, and now we can plug it in for b and put it all together. So our final solution is y equals 2/3 x plus 16/3. All right, let's look at the next problem. The next one is very similar, but this time they do not give us a slope. So what we would need to do first is find the slope first. And for that, we have a formula. The formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's going to be 9 take away 6 over 6 take away 7, which is 3 over -1, which is -3. So now we have our slope, -3. And the last thing we need is the y-intercept. So we're given 2 points, so it doesn't matter which of the two we use. They're both going to give us the same result. I'll use the first point. So I'm going to plug in 6 for y and 7 for x. And that'll give us our final y-intercept that we need, plus 21. And so b equals 27. So our final answer would be y equals -3x plus 27. All right, let's take a look at the next page. Find an equation of a line. So as soon as I see that statement, find the equation of a line, I automatically go to y equals mx plus b first. And notice that we're given the x-intercept. So the x-intercept is 1, 0. And the y-intercept is 0, -4. And so we can do the same steps that we did in the previous problem. The difference in the y's divided by the difference in the x's gives us -4 over -1, which is +4. And we don't really need to do anything for the y-intercept because it's already given to us. So -4 is the y-intercept. So our final answer is y equals 4x minus 4. All right, find an equation of the line once again, and it's got to satisfy this condition here. So it's got to be perpendicular to this line, and it has to go through that point. So what we know about perpendicular lines is that their slopes are opposite reciprocal of one another. So if we can find the slope of this line, then we would just take the opposite reciprocal of that, and that would give us the slope of our line. So let's do that. 2x plus 7y plus 5 equals 0. If we write this equation in this form, we'll know what the slope is. So let's solve for y, and we would do that by subtracting 2x and subtracting 5 to both sides of the equation. And now we have 7y equals -2x minus 5. Divide by 7, and there you have it. Y equals -2/7 x minus 5/7. However, that's not the line that we want. We want the equation of the line that's perpendicular to this, and that goes to this point. So now we can take the opposite reciprocal of the slope, and so that would be y equals +7/2 x plus b. And then the final thing we need is the y-intercept, which we can find by plugging in these two coordinates once again. So that's -2. This is -1. So this becomes -2 equals -7/2 plus b. And then we solve for b. So now we have -2 plus 7/2. So if we multiply top and bottom by 2, we're going to get 7, or -4 plus 7, which is +3. So it's going to be 3/2. And that's going to do it. So our final equation would be 7/2 x plus 3/2. All right, find the slope and the y-intercept of the line and draw its graph. So in order to find the slope and the y-intercept, we once again write this in y equals mx plus b form. So we have x plus 4y equals 0. Subtract. And then divide by 4. So we can write this as -1/4 x. And notice there is no y-intercept. You can write +0, or you can just leave that blank, and that would be our final equation. So our slope is -1/4, and our y-intercept is 0. So those are the two things that we're asking for, and now they want us to graph. So let's draw the coordinate plane. So the slope is -1/4. Our y-intercept is 0. So first we'll graph the y-intercept, and then we're going to go down 1. So our rise is -1, and our run is +4. So down 1/4. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 would be right there. And then we just connect those 2 points. All right. All right, same thing here. So let's do the same process. So we can isolate the y. By adding 2x and subtracting 16 to both sides. And dividing by -4. So y equals -1/2 x plus 4. So our slope is -1/2, and our y-intercept is +4. And then to graph, we draw a coordinate plane again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we always start with the y-intercept when we're graphing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to go down 1/2. That would be our slope. So it's about there. Okay, let's take a look at the last page. The last problem says, the equations of two lines are given. Determine whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So once again, we should write these in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and then we can compare their slopes to see which of those three it will be parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So for the first one, I'm going to isolate the y by subtracting 2x and dividing by -3. So we end up with y equals positive 2/3 x minus 1/3. And now we do the same thing to the other line. Minus 8x. And divide by 12. And that's going to be y equals negative. Well, we can simplify this fraction by 4 and get 2/3. And if we compare their slopes, they are opposite slopes, but they're not reciprocal. So that means that they're not parallel, because in order to be parallel, they would have to be equal, which they're not. In order to be perpendicular, they would have to be opposite reciprocal, which they're not. And therefore, they are neither. So the final answer would be neither. And that concludes this section.